like the clock it hits again. Money flows like power through this vein. Frack put his ass to work, make it pay. Killing dreams in a high-tech LA.
Hey everybody, welcome to Chuck Yates Got a Job, the podcast. If you get a chance this week to watch this podcast, and we show them over on Collide, it's kind of cool because this is worthy of listening to. But at the end of the day, we run through a product demo, so you'll get to see the computer screen and the actual Collide AI enterprise system working. It's pretty cool. So if you get a chance to watch it, watch it. Thanks for joining. All right, I got a text yesterday. It says, I can tell Chuck Yates has a job because you haven't dropped a podcast in a while. So
there you go.
Thank you for coming on, Todd. How did we meet you? I don't know that I've ever actually heard this story because you've been around for a couple of years now. I feel like we're really good friends.
Actually through John Kalfayan. So John was an early customer of mine back in the day, and we met each other through some different oilfield connections. And then when Colin and John started talking about the community side, we actually started getting into detail about, okay, how could you grow the community and what would that look like? And able to come in and help build out the community side, and then started talking all about AI and workflows, and the rest was history.
What did you done to make us think that you could actually help build out the community?
It's all farce.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was involved in quite a few of the former kind of oil and gas communities, and was able to, was always interested in basically this community aspect, and being kind of, and I think I'm right on this verge of kind of a Gen X era where there's maybe a little bit of gap in the oil and gas industry. So the early communities that were out there, participated in a lot of them. And then
when you say participated, were you like writing code, business, all of the above?
Yeah, more business and market intelligence and what was happening with rigs, frac crews, sand that was being used in the Permian early on, the sand actual mines that were basically starting up back in, we'll call it like 2015, 2016, and then helped, thinking through kind of what the market was doing back then, and John and I kept in touch all that time as he was more on the frac side and selling kind of I'd say frac and well tests at different companies.
So how do you do that? Because you started at Chevron, right?
Yeah. So I started at Chevron, basically new to the oil and gas industry, and before that I was kind of traveling back and forth between the coasts, working on kind of software and financial banking, and basically wanted to be in Houston, and had some relationships and got into Chevron, where I focused on their digital oilfield projects. And so got involved and got to work on water alternating gas and pattern injection and CO2 floods and EOR, different EOR projects. And so that kind of got me indoctrinated into oil and gas. And
you joined the cult.
And so I've been family's oil and gas as well. So I knew this is kind of where I wanted to be, and was able to translate that into some software and data, and always been kind of interested in kind of data and kind of market intelligence and how that kind of influences commercial decisions. So it was a good fit for me, and I've been able to be in the industry for now 18 probably years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It was funny. I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but I was talking with Blair over at Mercury Group, and Colin had gone to Blair and said, hey, we really need Todd to join us full time. I think we need to make him chief operating officer or president, or, whatever your title is. And Blair was funny because Blair calls me and goes, what do you think about this? And I go, hey, Blair, everything you hate about Colin, you're going to like about Todd. So that was
try to bring a nice even keel and focus on the kind of workflows and what we're doing. And I feel like there's a natural kind of transition in, bringing the community, building out value for the community, and then also all the AI workflows. It's great to be able to show outcomes and quick wins for operators and the teams that we're working with. So
yeah, it's maybe just for the audience. So just so you know, the last couple of, because you should have better things to do than listen to my podcast, but I had Colin on, and he kind of talked about founding Digital Wildcatters podcast through the community to AI enterprise software. And then John came on and said, hey, before you do that, you actually have to get your data in line and stuff. Tell me what we've kind of learned, because you and I have been running around selling software now for about a year. Mm-hmm. What have we learned?
Yeah, so I feel like one of our big learnings would probably be around search and the whole value proposition around search. That's something. There are a number of companies that immediately see value in it and want to dig in and understand what the completion designs were, what's happening at a certain well that they need to investigate. If they have an entire kind of well history where they need to do the research and analysis to understand the root cause of a failure, those kind of well search examples are great.
Because if you step back and you think about it, some of that stuff happens literally going to a banker's box.
Oh, yes. Yes, and not just one banker's box, like hundreds.
Yeah, and you do that, and then maybe you get it digitized. Maybe it's in one of your legacy software systems you're using, but you can't remember exactly where. Where did I see that? Was that in WellView? Was that here? Was it there? And so, yeah, no, I think you and I have talked about this. You go out to Silicon Valley and you tell people we use less than 1% of the data that we've accumulated as an industry because we just can't find it.
Yeah, and it's lost. It's in the ether or on a piece of paper, or a PDF somewhere that maybe wasn't related to the well. And so there's a rich set of information when you start looking at the post-job frac reports, or maybe a mud report that happened years ago, that maybe the team acquired the assets and they don't necessarily know exactly what was done and why it was done. And so we can uncover those kind of needle in the haystack kind of problems, as well as then turn around and build kind of workflows on top of it. And so that's awesome.
I do think that was the Chat GPT condition the market. I remember the first time I used Chat GPT and I went, crap, I'm never going to use Google again. Because you got an answer, and then 20 minutes of using Chat GPT, I pulled up Perplexity, and it's like, holy cow, it gives me an answer and it links the source. Yeah, I'll never use Google again.
Yeah, and now executives are looking at Chat GPT, maybe evaluating contracts, gas purchase agreements, anything like that. There's definitely some real simple kind of use cases. I think where we see a tremendous kind of opportunity is, well, now we can take those gas purchase agreements and build a workflow around it, so the team knows how to begin renegotiating or looking at the dedications and seeing if there's any overlap in the dedications for different assets. And there's just a number of those workflows that provide a whole lot of value to different teams.
Yeah, I think one of the things we wind up talking about with clients is it's sequential in nature. You basically, and John and I talked a lot about this on the podcast. You got to chunk, embed that data, slap metadata on it, get it into the vectorized database. And when you do that, you can start searching. That's a byproduct of that. But you have to do that work to then automate these workflows.
Yes. Yep. And we're seeing as we get in and talk to many different operators, everyone's a little different, but essentially understanding where some of the wells are, some of the well history. We can then take on different regulatory workflows, understand maybe there's root cause analysis that we need to look at and build out for teams that are looking at workovers. And maybe it's even getting into some of the field operation side where we can start generating JSAs and really understanding not just what's happening in the field, but then taking everything, all the internal kind of corporate knowledge and helping the teams in the field actually use that and apply it so you get safer operations.
Yeah. Yeah. I one of the things Colin says that I like when he says ultimately we have to sell an outcome. So when you automate that workflow, the finance bro in me likes that because you can usually quantify it back to money. We spent 275 hours a year doing this, copying and pasting these things. We've automated this totally because that's what AI does really well. Searches through a lot of data, grabs what it needs. You can generate documents off it, and bing, it now takes 30 minutes. So you can actually put a number to what an automated workflow, i.e. an outcome is. That being said, I want to make this one case, and you can just like roll your eyes at me if you want. I truly believe when you chunk and embed, get all your data in there, and you turn really smart engineers loose on just querying stuff. Because one thing AI does really well is it finds correlation. It may not, it doesn't tell you causation, but I think there's going to be like a million things we're going to find, like stuff that, things like if you have a left-handed pump or your wells fail 35% more often, there may not be any causation to it, or it may actually be, no, they're using the wrong tool or something. You know, who knows what it is. But I actually think they're going to be big time game changers for people doing that. But it's hard to quantify.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going in with our kind of forward deployed engineering teams to basically say, here's the value statement, but there's also all those kind of creative kind of, thought partner type of use cases where maybe it's just a little bit of like getting answers about specific areas that kind of generates other questions where you can start seeing some of, maybe I didn't really understand what happened 30 years ago on this well, or maybe it's a new well that's been drilled and there's some kind of unique kind of completion design practices that were used for that specific well. And I think there's a lot of just uncovering data to make it a little more transparent across kind of operations.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like, because we were doing early stage assets at Kane, and it felt like we were creating this monster spreadsheet on every play where you literally laid out every well and every variable, and you eyeball regressed all this stuff. And I remember one play we made a fortune on, and what we figured out was the feet of pay you needed was binary. You needed 15 feet or more. It did not mean that 22 feet was better than 17 feet. It was solely binary on that. If you were below 15, you did not make a good well. Didn't matter what the frac was. And above 15, or it was 20 or something, it was literally just binary. And if you looked at the wells on a binary basis, just on the basis of that, you had a play. And so it became geologists go map it, get enough 20 foot in there, great, we can go drill good wells. But I mean, AI is going to be a game changer doing that type stuff.
Oh yeah, and there's so many kind of unique. It's so good at going through large volumes of data versus, as if I'm in kind of operations and I have to go back through the paper, or I have 15 wells that I need to review that week. We can actually apply a little AI to that to help automate that, but also free up some time for you to do higher value work.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. So my sense is running around selling AI like we have, getting applications installed. We've done a lot of cool stuff. We've got a company using it on the marketing agreements, like you were kind of talking about earlier. We're building some proof of concepts right now where we're going to look at expenses and finding duplicate bills and a lot of that. But I think two have really kind of popped out that we've gotten big, huge wow factors on. And the first is the automation of the G-10s and W-10 filings. What are those? Because mom might be listening.
Yes.
Explain it to mom.
Yeah, exactly. So every single active producer in Texas has kind of compliance that they have to meet. And if you're familiar with the Texas Railroad Commission, that's kind of the regulatory body that manages and monitors kind of all of the Texas operations. And so each year, a couple times a year, those operators get a notification letter from the Texas RRC where they basically have to report back. They're testing the wells, they're in good shape, and they basically have some indications in there about if it's active, if it's shut in. And so they have to do that for every single oil and gas well. And those are the W-10s and G-10s.
And that's kind of not the most perfect analogy, but the car inspection, right?
Yep.
Annual car inspection.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And they have to know that it's there, actively producing. And then even after that, there's, several other kind of regulatory processes that that take place. I think everyone's familiar with kind of the application of, permit to drill. These are kind of after that, once you're actually producing. And then subsequently, after maybe a well is taken offline or it's no longer active, there's some other kind of regulatory processes that we're going to manage as well.
Yeah, because the push-pull just on wells are, you don't want to plug a well prematurely if there are other activities to go do in that well, behind pipe zones to add, et cetera. Can you convert it to an injector, various things? But the Railroad Commission does want you plugging and abandoning those wells according to procedure and code, et cetera, to protect the environment. So that's kind of the push and pull on all this stuff. It was wild back when I started at Kane. I mean, we didn't even talk about P&A in wells. I mean, it's just like we'd buy all these wells. It was like, we'll get to it wherever. Yep. And then probably after about 10 years, we started at least putting a list together that we'd P&A. Now they were 40 years from now. Mm-hmm. Right about the time I got fired, that was the first page in the board book, was the regular P&A of wells. Because, I mean, I think Sarah Stodgener and others would gripe that the Railroad Commission's not doing enough about that. But, yeah, they do push more. So, cool. You got the computer.
Yeah.
Give us the demo on how. Show me one of these letters.
Yeah, perfect. So let me pull up maybe a short one that I can show. And what you would basically see in this letter, obviously, as an operator, you would get this letter both kind of in the mail and through email. But it's basically going to give you a list of fields and leases and wells that are kind of due for the W-10. So this is for active oil wells. And you can see I have about, I believe, 14 wells on this particular example. But traditionally, an operator would receive this. They have access to a lot of internal data. They're going to possibly create a spreadsheet, begin organizing it. Maybe they're going to go and search in their kind of whatever well database they have, whatever production system they have, pull all that information together, and then produce that PDF report. You also have some other options to file it with the ROC, but in general, seeing a lot of kind of spreadsheet and working with the data. So we came in and talked with a couple different operators that spend, we'll call it kind of 500 hours a year type of effort generating these W-10s, and basically created a way.
And this is not value add. I mean, this is literally copy and paste information from here to there.
Correct.
Type stuff. This is reporting.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
And so we created the way to basically take that notification letter and our system right now. So AI is going to read through that letter, pick out all the leases and the wells that are due, and then we're going to query kind of a database to get the other well information.
And this is like the company's database?
Yeah, this would be all the company's database, and then essentially taking the well information and then querying essentially a production database that would show all of that well test production information coming back.
And that's like Scout and Merrick, and who else has a production
database?
Like
Field Direct is one.
Yeah.
There's a couple others like Greasebook and a handful of other kind of tools that are out there for different kind of operations. And we'll be pretty transparent in showing, all right, here's all the activity that kind of the AI process. We grab that data, enrich the information, and it's going to show kind of the districts that we're looking at. So we have wells in District 7B and 8A. And the beauty here is that I basically just uploaded that document and then gave it to the system, and it created the PDF. So right there, we're taking those hundreds of hours that typically are required to create kind of the W-10s and G-10s, compress that down to, a couple minutes. And now I can just verify the data and make sure that, okay, yes, I got all my leases. I know which ones are shut in. I have the correct kind of oil production, kind of well tests that are there.
And there's something the Railroad Commission, and this makes sense. The Railroad Commission flags a well if you show a well test that was greater than a previous one.
Yes.
And that makes sense because they want to know what happened. Did you work it over? Did you do whatever?
Right.
And so one of our trust but verify things on the thought process, doesn't it say, hey, we looked for that and we didn't see it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're kind of pulling out the max amount so that okay, there's no well test that exceeds that kind of max amount, and that we're going to verify those rules.
You have allowables and stuff like that too.
Exactly.
You've got to, okay.
Exactly.
Cool.
So that's kind of the gist of
and you
kind
can
of
edit
W-10.
this, can't you?
Yep.
When it pops up there.
If I see something here, maybe for the Garza well, if there's something there that I don't like, maybe I think that's 8 barrels instead of 10, or I have specific information in here you want to change, you can take that, make those edits, and then basically download and send the document to the RRC. So
that's cool. The not that we would do this, but theoretically, no human would have to be involved, right?
Yeah. So there's already some
shows up in an email.
Yep, we can grab the email, actually create it all the way through, and then I think we're going to begin having some other conversations about actively taking it and pushing it to the Railroad Commission, so that if we get to the point where somebody wants to step back and let the entire process run, then we'll have that option for them.
And the neat thing about this, so our CTO, Canisius, who will come on the podcast at some point, he and I were talking. I mean, he says, we've written this. It's been battle tested now with a couple of people. It seems to be working really well. It's easy to install. This is a couple of weeks. We just basically have to, where are you keeping the data, and make sure we can talk to it.
Yeah, and we're building out all these connectors for the different kind of well databases and production systems, so that we know as we go in, even if it's an on-premise, maybe field direct, we know that we can connect to that through a couple different ways. And even as companies are spending so much time kind of on their data efforts and making sure they understand where everything is, I think we can help connect to those individual systems, or potentially even those kind of data warehouses where they're starting to store more and more well information in production data. So either way is a good option.
Cool. The other thing I wanted to have you demo real quick is we've got a client that's a minerals company, and I probably won't do this justice, so correct me when I'm telling the story, but basically they're spending a lot of money each month with, in effect, a sweatshop in India, manually keying in data off revenue statements, because as the owner of the mineral or the royalty, you get a wire or an ACH payment with your money, but then you get a statement saying, here's how much money you got, here were your volumes, et cetera. And they don't seem to be really nice in providing that in a digital format. So most people are actually out there keying that stuff in, I think.
Yeah, and it sounds like, from all the mineral firms that we talked to, and even kind of some of the non-op groups within operators, basically getting all that information in. Obviously, they're getting it in PDFs and they've scanned it in, but we can actually then help them extract that information and use, all right, here's what you're getting paid. Here's what kind of the property is showing from a number, like a volume perspective from each individual well, and then build off of that. So we can take that data and then create, maybe it's just a spreadsheet that you want because you want to verify it. Maybe it's what's called a CDEX kind of export. So the accounting systems, most of those production accounting systems will accept kind of an import. And so we're working with a couple of operators to basically define that, see how they want to use it. And the one that I can show is, I can pull up a single revenue statement. Let's just do that. and basically take you through, okay, similar process of upload the file, kick it off, and then we're going to give you kind of this little thought process that shows, all right, now I'm going to extract the revenue statement. It's going to show me, okay, how many statements were parsed, what was the total check amount, and then give you an idea of some of the owners and other information. And what that will do is basically give you in this case, we're exporting to a JSON file, but that's really just for our development. So that can be a spreadsheet, that can be a import file format for an accounting system, and begin kind of helping the back office to basically use that information in a way that they haven't been able to yet.
Yeah, because I mean, I would imagine a slug of the information we're extracting needs to go into accounting because it's money, it's revenue, stuff like that. I also think the volumes, in terms of oil and gas volumes, you're potentially going to want to grab that and send it to Aries or PhD Win or Combo Curve, whoever the case may be, because a lot of these mineral funds have gotten really sophisticated and are doing their own engineering on stuff. And that's actually been a competitive advantage to certain mineral funds, is they know the assets a lot of times better than other folks do.
Yeah, and you get the actual kind of volumes that you can see from, both, oil, gas, NGLs, all of that information coming through. So it's a rich kind of set that they can actually do a number of things with. And now we're kind of starting with some of the revenue statement to accounting side, but I feel like it's gonna open up to so many other opportunities once they have a usable kind of data set.
Yeah. And again, I mean, we're talking, hours worth of keying work that now goes away.
Yeah. And like this example, I think there's 6 PDFs that I just uploaded. So it just went through all 6, gave me a little summary, and now we're even expanding that. Obviously, this is one that's showing kind of more human in a loop, so somebody actually doing the work versus maybe just picking up those files in a Dropbox, in a OneDrive somewhere where all those files are being loaded, and we just automatically run through them.
If we're so these are, to use Colin's terminology, these are outcomes. So we've gone in and we've built outcomes. It's built on at least a slug of the technology that's in effect commoditized across all our products. Kind of the AI RAG model we've got. Maybe 20% of it is kind of bespoke code on what kind of outputs you want, how do you get your inputs and stuff. Where does this stop? Does it stop? Talk about the future. Let's go like dreamland.
Yeah. So
crystal balls.
So crystal ball wise, I would love the opportunity to come in from an operator perspective and look at an entire kind of end-to-end workover solution, so that you have something that's, you're looking at the failures, you're understanding the root causes for those wells that are going offline, all the way to scheduling jobs and scheduling kind of the work to getting the work done kind of from the field operation side. So that's one that's a great kind of workflow where we can interact with different groups and different teams within one operator, as well as kind of vendors and contractors.
Well, you got to think when you can be more holistic on the view of everything going on with that well, that you're ultimately going to be better. I mean, that used to just drive me crazy that operations would never even talk to reservoir. And you're like, we have a type curve based on a certain type of frac. You can't go pump less volumes and expect to get those reserves. Do y'all not talk?
Yeah. Right. And then even getting to the point where, even completely different workflow, but one that comes up a lot from the kind of oilfield service side is, interacting with sales and the sales team, having to answer questions about maybe it's specific products or even take kind of a frac company, for example, where they have an operator that they're working with and they want to understand the best completion design for the Haynesville. Well, there's no reason why we can't work with the frac company and get all of that post-job reports and those completion designs, create a way where not only they have access, but also an operator has access, so that they're basically have access to a lot of that information anyway. And they could then start interacting together within the same platform. So within Collide, there's so many unique opportunities where we can drive workflows that are just internal at operators, but then touch on others where we're actually interacting with vendors, other contractors, as well as kind of the entire supply chain.
Yeah. I'm going to be disappointed if in 5 years we're not sitting around crowing, talking about how we made the CapEx spend among our clients at least 10% better, maybe even 15% better. I mean, they're just, there's so much if you just, like I said, take a more holistic approach on things, factor it through, just tiny little bit of lessons there. As well as, we haven't even really talked about risk management, but I mean, we as an industry spend so much purely in just insurance premiums, as well as then, real life costs when accidents happen, and being able to reduce that substantially, I think is going to be important too.
Yep. Yeah. And we've talked a lot about this one too, but it's the companies where they still have kind of a growth mindset. Obviously the market's a little challenging right now, but from an operator perspective, with a team in place and they're trying to grow their production base, not having to hire in the same way that they had to 5 years ago, where we can help them kind of grow production with maintaining the team and maintaining kind of the engineering discipline and operations teams in place. And so you can see this place where we might be in 5 years, where we have some case studies where operators went from maybe 500 to 2,000 wells, and it's the same engineering team. And we have Collide workflows running both from the safety side, environmental, regulatory, workovers, and even getting a little bit into more of the kind of production operation side.
Yeah, the more time I spend with this, the more dismissive I get of AI is going to steal my job. No, it's not. Somebody that knows how to do your job with AI will take your job if you don't learn it. But it really is a huge enhancement tool. And I tell my kids every day, please be playing with this. Figure out how to use it, because at the end of the day, it's really that.
Yeah. Yeah. And absolutely thinking the regulatory teams that we're working with, they've been so welcoming, and just their eyes light up when they see the W-10 and G-10 workflow.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like, who likes to copy and paste?
Exactly. So I feel like there's that angle of, we will not only help kind of automate the workflows, but help teams enjoy what they're doing on a daily basis, and take some of that root kind of non-value added work and actually free up some of their time so they can spend it on more strategic things.
Exactly. Todd, you were cool to come on.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.